Tong Dorjee
Sono Noi Janju Bando Dane Shabson Je
Dane Gyugyu Jebe Sono Dola Benje Sanje Lobar Sho Sangha Je Tong Dorjee
Sono Noi
Janju Bando Dane Shabson Je Dane Gyugyu Jebe Sono Dola Benje Sanje Lobar Sho Nola Majuna Gitatan Bisingi Tangi Tendo, Tojalana Mepa Yanda Bozobi Sanji Kumbaram, Jenny Toba Chago, Detoba Shavi Cheto, Tabe Cherum, Bajasenia, Bekono, Shanji Semji, say Sembegon and Sembration.
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings, with that kind of bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
그래서 그때 그는 휴자고 매비 돈 줍는데 제부지는 용거로 봤어 이네요. 나랑 처음으로 그 누구에 따라 랑된 거 쪼기 인상버시네. 아니 랑 된다. 다 랑 된 쪼시베 아니 yin 랑 된 yin 다 된다 쪼기 그 인버진 원지신 그 다드네. 내가 봤을 그것도
I feel that it's important for us to recognize the significance of cultivating strong, proper motivation as we engage in spiritual practice or spiritual activity. If our motivation is, let's assume, correct motivation, but it's not really strong per se, and then do our practice or do a positive action, yes, our positive action will bring a positive result, but the result is not going to be that great, probably as we would expect. So the point I'm trying to get across to you is this, that strong, correct motivation plays a very significant role in not only the effectiveness of what we do or practice, but the outcome, what kind of outcome that we would have. And so we should recognize that cultivating spirituality or practicing spirituality or doing something positive is really a very important thing in our life. It is through such action or spirituality that we are able to benefit the most, both self and others. So it's very important for us to be able to recognize that, the role of the spirituality in our life and what we can do, for others as well.
아니 상이다 랑게 아니 샤와시마니 보테 형을 가라용이 때에 찾도야지 매버 다트상 동고도 왔어.
So if we have to generate proper motivation, that too very strong motivation, so that our practice become very effective and we will have a better outcome, if you will, better result from our practice, then how can we do that? Really what is involved here is, can we direct our mind really into spirituality or practice? Okay? If we succeed in doing that, if we succeed in directing our mind into spirituality, it is to that extent, we will experience the effectiveness of our practice. So now how can we mold our mind into spirituality, if you will? How can we do that again? Now, as it is said elsewhere, and Geshe started to quote the lines from his memory, we need to reflect on the transient nature of our life, the transitoriness of our life. The fact of the matter is, we really don't know, if we think carefully, whether tomorrow will come first or the next life.
Your next life.
So that means, whether our next life will come first or the tomorrow morning will come first. We are really not sure in this case. So therefore, so if we consider that fact, that our next life could come before, tomorrow, then that kind of mentality will help us to conduct our life properly, if you will. That is to say that we will, stop harming or hurting others, and we might pursue more beneficial actions for both self and others, because we really don't know whether there is going to be tomorrow or our next life will come first. So if we can do that kind of reflection or meditation, or take that kind of effect into account, then I feel that we will be able to see many changes happening inside us. For example, that when we see other people pursuing spirituality or positive actions, we will really rejoice in what they are doing, positive things. And then when we ourselves engage in positive actions or practice, we are not going to go on an ego trip. You see, because our ego will be humbled, if you will, as we consider the fact that the next life could come before tomorrow. See, so we are able to see those benefits, if you will, if we do such a reflection. Relatedly, we should also, as I often advise ourselves, consider that even though none of us wants any kind of unwanted problems and suffering in our life, but we do experience many, problems and suffering. So what brings us really unwanted problems and suffering to us? So it's very important for us to investigate, if you will, in the source of our problems and suffering. Our usual, tendency, to, as we face problems, is, for example, we might just point our finger at someone, as if somebody is responsible for, my life is getting messy here. So we started to blame someone because someone said something, or someone really thought something, badly about me, or did something wrong. So therefore, now I have this problem. Or we might even think that, I'm responsible, but something I did in this lifetime. I made a mistake somewhere here or did something wrong. So we always kind of get confined within this lifetime and blaming somebody else for problems in our life.
rang zepe rang shepe leke rang himbert res kana tkaresna gite dunge kineba tekme dadin deli shons ngarazole mende biri kanji shongina te ene rang genzi wang rang bewala chane rang the turn yin and never shave it, really around chorus the canon units.
Now, if we study the teachings of historical Buddha Shakyamuni and also other great Indian masters such as Arya Nagarjuna and Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva and so on. Now, what do they tell us? What do they have got to say about this matter? What all of them unanimously, so to speak, tell us is that we are responsible for the experiences in our life. In other words, what we experience in our life are the outcome or the results of our own karmic actions. Okay, so there's nobody to be blamed, for all the things happening in our life. And then if you wonder how is that, as Geshe quoted some of the lines from his memory, elsewhere it stated that whatever misery we find in the world, or you can translate the misery into problem and suffering or all of that, anyway, all the things we don't want happening in the world is basically arising from our self-centeredness or selfishness. When we are grounded in self-centeredness, as if I am the world or the universe and everything has something to do with me, okay, so I'm top of the world, then out of that self-centeredness or selfishness arises this attachment to self, and everything we connect to the self. So everything becomes very important in this case. So when that is our framework of mind, that is the ground on which we are standing, then what seems to be happening is we started to hurt others or engage in actions which are harmful to others, because basically in order to gratify the selfish interest.
Devi ta rang la ne gui pe ta ane tende ji gari shong na dewa tang ane rang la devi ri kandi ji shong ba yin de chama lo yin rang ge yin dewa de pe ane sambal de shong res ti kare is na rang ji ti dewa ji ni ba te ku yin de de le shong
Yes.
rang la dewa kandi ji shong ba de rang ge ni yin de bo de ji bu ya che sang tang ba ti in de bu
And then Geshe continues the quote from his memory. So let me go back and how it began. Whatever misery we find in the world, that comes from self-centeredness or selfishness. Whatever goodness, is this broad term which could include peace, happiness, prosperity, everything good, just put into that. That arises from cherishing others. So that's basically what all these great teachers have been telling us. Shakyamuni Buddha, Arya Nagarjuna, Shantideva, and you just, add to the list. So what they're saying that when we really cultivate the sense of caring, we really wish others to be happy, we care about them, others, then from this kind of a state of mind, cherishing others, we are able to find happiness for ourselves.
Shiva Chumizawais, no canon. They tell the any doti any gomba drentus canambres.
So the lines I have quoted from my memory, or the stanza, it comes from Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva. Of course, Shantideva did not just come up this kind of from his creative or genius, some kind of a mind, original, but he was basically, if you will, commenting on what Shakyamuni Buddha himself said in a sutra, which is the original discourse of a Buddha. And the Buddha, talked a lot about different aspects of law of karma. See, and as Buddha was teaching about the different facets of karma, if you will, he talked about how if we create a positive karma, we will have positive result. If we create a negative karma, we will have negative result. Because karmas do not get confused. They don't, get confused, and then the negative result bring the positive, negative karma bring positive result or vice versa. It doesn't happen. It's not in the law of nature. But I also taught that if we do not create and accumulate any karma, good or bad, then we don't have to worry about it. We are not going to experience the result of our karma we don't create, good or bad. Okay? But if we have created or accumulated karmas, good and bad, well, then we have to experience their results. We already created them. So these are the different facets of law of karma that Buddha talked about, and what I just quoted in Shantideva's work is related to that.
The Sanskrit
No, sure. No. So, but karma is a Sanskrit term, and of course in Tibetan we call le, which literally means action. So karma is, if this Geshe wants to, if you throw the word like Sanskrit word, then some people might think, what is that? So, karma means action, the actions we perform. So they have consequences. So one of the things I just mentioned is, if we ourselves do not create particular karmic actions, now let me use the term together, karma and action, karmic actions, then we don't have to worry about them. Other people might be creating a lot of different karmas or karmic actions, but we are not responsible for their karmic actions. So we don't have to worry about experiencing the results of others' karmic actions. That doesn't work. They have to be responsible for their karmic actions.
ni gewe le du ni pa nami de pa tawa maje na ting ba nyong so ma to ya gewe le du ni ko yente le du ba de ma so yo bas de ya san tang.
So one of the aspects of karmic action is that once we have created and accumulated karmic actions, good or bad, they will definitely bring their outcomes. There is no exception to the rule. Okay? And so what that means is, we should understand that if we create good karmas, provided that our good karmas do not get destroyed by some other agents or factors such as delusions, then these karmas will definitely bring their positive results. Now, the same thing goes with the negative karmas. Once we have created negative karmas, provided that we do not purify ourselves of those negative karmas, then these negative karmas will bring their negative results.
Yeah. Digwa sa ne mane taj me ba jang maris digwa kan chi chung kan ji yin ne digwa taj me ba jang maris dai yoris.
So as we think about the negative karmas that we have created and maybe we are creating, the good news about this is there isn't any kind of a negative karma that cannot be purified. If I can make up a word, negative karmas are purifiable. Okay, they can be cleansed, they can be, eliminated, if you will. So that's the good news about negative karmas.
And sometimes around the church do it, digwa daya ta rang sak be digwa daya ta sunum saya kid do yours.
So based on that fact and a belief that we are engaging in the spirituality or dharma, the reason why we take so much interest in studying dharma and practicing dharma is because through spirituality, through creating good karmas, through spiritual practice, we are able to purify ourselves of negative karmas and delusions, and we can get rid of them.
That the dollar lay pay chas. That's something. Pena lay chishun kandi sabi in a kotagara do yammer, gave a leg in and drum, give a leg in and chishun kandi sabi in a tagar do yamaris. Koi perguris.
And another aspect of our karma that we really need to consider is once we create a positive or a negative karma, whatever karmic action we create, it so to speak, like multiplies its intensity over a period of time. It's not like, we create one negative karma and that's kind of like a fixed thing. It just doesn't change anything. It'll just remain that and it'll bring one result somewhere there. Okay. Whatever positive or negative karma, it may seem very insignificant, but with the passage of time, you see, its intensity gets picked up. It just goes up. So it is as if our karma is getting multiplied.
Drinking le pena so on the drink na ta de ba ta wa majena a sani chando da santi sani de ye tene je tene kyuru tene sin sun soni sin doks nya pendo goles da me gevi le ta ga tare kiwares.
So let me give you an example of a negative karma, because we really need to purify our negativities. But what I'm saying here, it also applies equally to positive karmas as well. Okay, and let's say, for some reason we have created the negativity of killing someone. Okay, so that is a negative karma, no doubt. So we have created it today. Now, if we do not purify that karma, tomorrow it doubles. It is as if we have killed twice someone. So the intensity picks up. Then the next day, it is like it becomes as if we have killed, 4 times it. Then the next day, it is like redouble into 8, 16, 32. So as if the intensity of the karma picks up, you see. And that means that we have to experience tremendous negative outcome or the result of that karma. Now the same thing goes with the positive action as well. Okay, if you do something positive today, provided that it's not destroyed by some agent or factor, that tomorrow it doubles. The next day, again it doubles. Okay?
So that le gawina in the Magi in the Tini San Tane, that Gidik balance yet the that kitchen which was to do that any gum jet so the China worse.
So what is the main point of highlighting these different facets or the dimensions of the karmic actions to you? As I talked about, positive karmas always bring positive results, negative karmas always bring negative results. Once we have created the karmas, we must experience the results. If we do not create karmas, don't need to worry about them. And once we create a particular karma, it has increasing nature. As we would say, the karma seems to multiply over a period of time. So what? Now you say, okay, so what's the big deal? All these things talking about. The big deal is, in our everyday life, right? So we want to create as much as we can positive karmas and stop creating negative karmas. Otherwise, those are the, as we Americans would love to say, prices we pay. Okay? And I think one of the things really for all of us to practice in our everyday life, if we call it meditation, reflection, contemplation, whatever you want to call it, is to think about, karmic actions, how the law of karma functions, and what kind of results, are produced by different karmas. So if we don't pay, let's say, any attention or much attention to the law of karma, but we claim that we are Dharma practitioners. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of practice, whatever, meditation and sitting and whatever, walking meditation. Geshe Tsultim said that, but I just added a few things to make things clear for you. But if we don't pay attention to the karma, we are really not practicing it well. We end up doing a lot of negative things we shouldn't be doing, and but yet we claim ourselves to be practitioner of this and that. So when we talk about Chödrup, practicing Dharma or cultivating Dharma, spirituality or Dharma accomplishment, it is not to be sort of a materialized in a sense that as if if Dharma is an object that is somewhere at a destination, we just go there and get it and bring it here. It's not that. Okay? But the practice of the Dharma, what it means is that everyday life, we are mindful of what we are doing, saying, and thinking, our actions, and we try to stop the negative part of our actions and try to do more the positive actions. So that's what we call practicing Dharma. So Dharma is not something, that we can judge by the external actions only. Like, somebody is doing a mala, rosary, very busy fingering the mala, while he or she is practicing. Maybe, we don't know. Okay, and or somebody is sitting very nicely in a meditation posture and just like blinking the eyes or doing some just like opening the eyes to some as if seeing some kind of vision in the space or whatever. We don't know. See. But so really the real practice is in our everyday life we pay attention to our way of thinking. Are we thinking positively or negatively? And if we are thinking negatively, we have to intercept it, stop there. Okay, if we're thinking positively, good, continue, enhance it. So this is what we call engaging in or practicing Dharma. So all of us as Dharma practitioners, when we talk about say I'm practicing or I need to practice, the most important thing here is we have to look inwardly. We have, because we are so habituated at looking externally and outwardly what others are doing. Are they practicing or not? But that's none of our business. Then we, make all those judgments about what others are doing or not doing and all that stuff. Okay. What we really as practitioners is look inwardly within our own state of mind and find out how am I doing? You see, am I doing the things that I should be doing?
Kadampa Geshe ane be konja singi hiores. Ko ane tambu konde kuse kutoela ane ta ane mi chakwa jaya ta tende pe ta devasa himabu sana yor. Ta tende kili chelo ko ne ane chwe dubdi chan pe ta ando shene lame kundi chwe ta te sheda ta gedi ke palan siya te kare chego esena. Digu kabo ta nakut mabu yai chilja. Ane gewe chole sem rechin suna gewe red ta chiyung kadin ke dudi chane digu kabo rega. Megewe chole samno tang ne megewe lechi samne treshegen to ti chole dogu do na digu nakut ya. So tambo den do sine pe ta jewa chidi chane digu ta chokje kan ta Diu mabu chama to tamawo kase kawo rezanyi sama di yungu ya mare. Ta tende chepe takwa do shene ne po susu sem zida tang do na di chane ane diu kawo de ma chi nabu de nyu chi shi ane chewa ta kusi ta ta wale de di ta diu kawo chama to ta nabu me ba da ta tende ke chayo res ngara so do she go res.
Something I left from previous explanation as Geshe used the word that practicing Dharma is not to pass judgments on other people and as if what others are doing or not. It's not like watching a television, it's over there, whatever the thing is happening on the screen, nothing inside our mind. But here practicing means we have to bring, our attention inwardly and then consider, what we are thinking and saying and doing and are we doing the things right, according to the law of karma. That's very important for all of us to do. And so how should we do this? Okay, let me tell you an anecdotal story about one of the great Kadampa Geshes by the name of Geshe Ben Kunchen, who had a very interesting life. Before, of course, he was known as Geshe Ben Kunchen. He was really very not a nice guy. Okay, or he was a bad guy, let me say it straight. Bad in what sense is like, he would, wait for the travelers on high paths and he would rope them, he would even kill them, okay? So that's how he was making his living, he would just pounce on them and rip them off and... So then at a certain period of his life, he attended, some spiritual discourses or teachings of a Lama, which really touched him so much because the Lama was talking about... law of karmic action and all the things that I mentioned earlier. And so he said, okay, now what I have been doing all this time was completely negative and delusional, and I need to change myself, transform. So then he followed a particular method of practice, if you will. So what he did was he would sit in his meditation cave, and probably he had some kind of a table in front of him, and he collected a lot of white pebbles and black pebbles, little stones, rocks. And so he would really do a lot of reflection on his state of mind, what he was thinking. And if he think about something positive, then he would pick up a white pebble or a rock and put it there just to count. That was one positive thought. So if he was thinking about negative or doing something negative, he would pick up a black pebble, to count that. So he used those as his counters. Of course, at the beginning, there was a heap of black pebbles and hardly any white. It must be really kind of very disappointing. That was his state of mind. But then he persisted in his practice and continued to do that. Then at the end of his life, now he started to see heaps of white pebbles and hardly any black pebbles. So that means he really got his mind involved into positive thing, and he went through this tremendous inner transformation. That's how he practiced it. So here's a great example for us. That's how we should do it, in order to find out, what karmic actions that we are, creating. And so we have to be accountable, as you say, for our own karmic actions. We have to change ourselves for better. So we do talk a lot about different kinds of samayas, which are the Sanskrit words, the commitments of life, this and that. We have this commitment, that commitment, and all that. Perhaps one of the most important commitments that we all should have is to watch our mind, to be mindful of our own state of mind, what we are thinking, and then, if you will, correcting our way of thinking, if need be.
Same songs as the young same the same the Kaban continue to tani the Maris. Rather same the Givish will dog do a McGivish will dog to take. That McGivish will dog to Paka. Givish will dog that day, you're only going to pay us on Congress.
So when we talk about like protecting our mind or watching our mind, being mindful of our mind, what I really mean is not just simply kind of a focus on what is happening inside our mind. It's as if like we are watching a show inside our mind and let it happen, whatever happens. No, that's not what it is. Okay? The point of being mindful of our state of mind or what's going on inside our mind is if we are thinking something positive, then we should support it. We should enhance the positive, thinking and positive action. But if we do see that any negativity has popped up, then we can't be neutral here. We have to intercept. We have to interrupt the negativity and minimize it and try to get rid of it. So to be able to do that kind of reflection and practice really well, of course, first we must educate ourselves, as I often say, about the spirituality and spiritual practice. And this is where, to put in a very traditional, language, is that we have to listen to a lot of spiritual teachings. It's through listening to teachings we experience what we call a particular kind of wisdom that arises from listening to teaching. Okay, tebe shera. Tebe means to hear, to listen. Shera means wisdom, some knowledge, arises. So that's very important. So in modern language, it's the education. We need to educate ourselves about the spiritual practice so that we know what we are doing.
Tayan Tebasiatele, rank any the Lame Genta, run 2 things to my Goetan, Ya rank the Ranzo Sheni, she at years.
The Tibetan term Teba literally means to hear. So which, if we use that term hearing or listening, of course we can listen to teachings from lamas or gurus or teachers. Or, the listening, which probably in English it doesn't work, we can listen to ourselves in the sense that we can do self-study, right? So I think with the education works well. We could be educated by the lamas through teachings, or we could educate ourselves by reading books and, the things we can do for ourselves.
다 랑게 대부 로네 랑게 대로네 랑조 시디 자네 대부 간데기나 대부 난 내지 라비야 뜻다가 라레 삼니 라마레 마텐바 랑게 람도키니 노시 대부 난게 여자들도 내게 가버렸어.
So we could be reading books, or the Dharma books in this case I'm talking about, or Dharma literatures and scriptures, and we may learn a lot in that way, but to be able to understand, if you will, the ins and outs of the Dharma practice, we have to rely upon the teachings of qualified lamas or spiritual gurus. Without their exposition and elucidation and help, we may not be able to understand the ins and outs of the things simply reading books.
대블 샵기나 농투 차약 내가 전부 열었어. 대 장벌이 된다에 랑 마키아바시 대미 가르치는 데가 마 트랜슬레이션 시켜주라 텔 샵기는 농투 전부 차약 내가 열었어.
If we do not rely upon the words of qualified spiritual masters, we just kind of read books for ourselves, we also need to understand there is big risk or danger involved here. We may understand the words, the things used for translation or whatever, but we may not understand, the actual meanings behind those words, or we might even misunderstand or get misinformed.
라마는 맞은 가르네 다데. 근데 희련님분들 그러고 희련님분들 전에 매일 나와면서다 대면 또 여러분 또 주의해서 there is no eyes. 하여튼 난기 트란스 누상을 따뜻히 여 말해서는 또 캐달 호양 같이 말이다. 왜 여도 얘기면 또 메시지 가르쳐 없어.
Let me give you an example of a Heart Sutra. And, many of you know this. And if you go through the Heart Sutra, we often come through this whole list, almost like a laundry list of, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no this, no that. Well, now let's say, we do not rely upon the words of lamas or the teachings, right? So how would we understand, all these things where we encounter a whole range of no this, no that? Now, if we conclude, well, this means that eyes don't exist, ears don't exist, nose doesn't exist, which means no, no, no. Well, now we end up ourselves in a very precarious situation. We become a very nihilist. You see, we are just annihilating the things which exist. And that's no good. That is in a very dangerous situation. So we really need to understand what does it mean, no ears, no nose, no eyes, and so on, no form, no sound, whatever. What are we really talking about? Of course, then we have to go into the whole discussion or the theories about emptiness. What do we mean? When we say no eyes, what kind of eyes don't really exist? They are not there. Of course, I don't have time today to divulge into all those matters here.
파다만 세정인스티 까나요레스 그 세지그 파마님보다 응원이 파마님을 쓰고가 말했어 그 세지그 파마니 때레다 영문이보다 까나요 저 근데 매버서 그 대면 다가는 도시네 리아버튼데 대면 도와다 다가라레스니 chanjo 세베는 너도 첨부 차양인가 요랬대.
So the point I'm trying to make here is, if we read books, there is a risk involved that we might, misunderstand completely the teachings, or we might get misinformed and stuff like that. Let me give you another example to illustrate my point. Say in a sutra, you really literally find Buddha said, father and mother are to be killed. Sounds like a very paradoxical statement. How do we understand that? Do we go and kill our mom and dad? So what does that really mean? Because Sutra won't explain it. It just says father and mother are to be killed. What it really means is that we are using the terms of the words father and mother to mean something else, And basically here we are talking about is diluted states of mind and contaminated karmic actions are to be destroyed. They are simply called father and mother. Okay? And there's a reason behind that.
다 산지의 경제니까 딱 뭐를 더 봐봐 통행이 같이 쳐 버리스. 가령에서나 아니 산지 경제니까 까달래 장도의 땅에 내전지 까다 장도의 까서 요레스. 진짜 장도의 던져 뭔가 얘는 돼야 돼 그래서. 송반나기 켈렌지가 말이스.
One of the great challenges, if you will, we face in understanding Buddhist literatures and discourses is this particular topic called Tangye in Tibetan, means that which is definitive and that which is interpretable. Okay, that is a huge topic. Okay, and so it is in this regard that we are very grateful to the two great pioneers of Buddha's teachings, or the great commentators of Buddha's teaching, Arya Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga, okay, because they elucidated some of the most challenging ideas that Buddha put forth. Okay, so based upon their works, authentic works, now we try to understand what are the definitive teachings of Buddha and what are the interpretable teachings. Interpretable in the sense that Buddha might have said something literally, as I said, mom and dad to be killed. But that is an interpretable teaching in the sense that requires an authentic interpretation. What did Buddha really mean? And why did he say that? And when did he say that? Under what circumstances he said that? And all of those stuffs need to be taken into account. So it's not an easy task to do. Okay? So therefore, as I'm saying that, if we just rely upon our own readings and don't rely upon qualified teachers, we might not understand them all, or we might completely misunderstand, such teachings.
다 된대기 체도 그게 아니 산지 경대데 주 송바티 두자 때라 때는 송구야래 송자다 된대리 된 나나바 난자 망보지 간나 구야래스 자 때티 수 체버는 도 생게 됐다 고볼루도 다 파파 토메니부터 자와라니까 롱텐다 디 돈조 장도에 당에도 그 아니 예제시야다 딱 저희 공부지기도 봐 장케데 고난이 임바테 다 산지 경대데 랑그 아니 롱텐나요레스.
One of the things we want to remember is Shakyamuni Buddha, our historical teacher, gave numerous teachings, according to suit the mental dispositions and capacities of different people. Okay, so Buddha taught different things under different circumstances for different people at different time. Okay, and Buddha had a reason to do that. And so therefore we cannot accept Buddha's teaching literally all the time. We could go really wrong. There are things which need really authentic interpretation, and this is where, as I said earlier, that Arya Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga, these two great Indian masters' works have become indispensable for us. And these are the two masters that Buddha himself predicted who would authentically elucidate his ideas, in the teachings. Right? So they really have the Buddha's, if you want, consent. That Buddha agreed that these two masters will come in the future and will elucidate his thought exactly he wanted. Okay, so we could totally rely upon their elucidation. So as I always do before returning to this wonderful text, I bring some ideas and things which I feel are very important for all of us to consider and understand, and I think that's why I shared those ideas. And now we are going to go back to this wonderful text called a Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshe's Advices.
다 남이 공부도 조인스 그때 남이 공부도 말해.
네.
단 도시에네 다 내가 땡기 휴빈 봤어. 왜나 레처링이 뭐나래 아니 요주께 미다 매주께 믹스 이 요르스게 휴빈 봤어. 알레테
So last week we were continuing our discussion on two selflessnesses, or two types of selflessness, or emptiness for that matter. And just a while ago I mentioned that in the Heart Sutra actually, that we find a number of places where we read statements such as no ears, no nose, no eyes, and no this and that. So what do they really mean? Let's work with no eyes, okay? Sensory, that's what we're talking about. So we really need to consider that eyes do exist in some form. So their eyes are existent in one way, we know that. But what does it mean, no eyes? So then what kind of eyes, if you will, they don't exist? They
make the ideas. The rangi to be make the rangi to be make the memories. And you do make the Taba and make the ideas.
So trying to simplify the matter as much as we could, although that's a tough thing to do, as we're talking with profundity of selflessness or emptiness, what kind of eyes don't exist, if you will, no eyes in that matter, is inherently existent eyes. There are no such things. They don't exist. There are no inherently existent eyes or objectively existent eyes. But eyes do exist. How, if you ask? They exist as, at the highest level, as mere labels. That's it. Eyes are nothing but mere labels. Okay?
Yeah, they are dang semi behaviors. Who does at the meter, the Gavil makes down at the Huamaris. Who dang semi killer. And it that there is in Minchan Tayo, Min Jamba Papeta. Tell Anita makes a grace. You do make.
So just like any phenomenon, eyes are nothing but mere labels given by terms and concepts. Okay. Of course, now that doesn't mean that we can name anything and everything, whatever we like, and then that's what it is. Okay, we're not saying that. But this is also a little more complicated matter, because there is such thing as what we call a valid basis of label or imputation. Now, what do I mean? Like, for example, we see that cup. That cup is not a valid basis to be labeled eyes. We cannot call the cup eyes. See, because that doesn't work. Even if we want to, for whatever strange reason we want to, but that's not going to work. See, so the mere labels or labeling does not mean we can just label anything that comes up in our mind and just go nuts with that. No. Okay, it has to consider a number of factors, including what is called a valid basis of label.
And that so society Das tangata kansa seta. Da say tele ane yujuk da kita ya mejuk da ki indu sin santangres.
Now let's shift the focus to ourselves. We often talk about da, self, nga, I, kansa, person, right? They all come to the same thing. So now we need to talk about what kind of self or I or person does not exist. What kind of self, person or I does exist? Because there are two kinds. One doesn't exist, the other does exist.
Sangaranse ane shewang haman in der yong rawas. Deni shaman dogres. Deni shaman haman den yo datang. Deni shaman dog dati yodiores. The lende ki to be datares.
Now, when we think about self, person, or I, there is such thing as self, person, I that exists. But what is it, if you ask? How does it? It is the self or the person that came from previous life into this life, and that it will continue into the next life, future life. Okay, so that kind of I, self, or a person does exist, because that self or the person I is the basis for our accumulation of karmic actions. When we create karmic actions, our karmic actions deposit their potencies on this particular cell. So this is the cell that carries the latencies or the potencies of the karmic actions from one life into the another life. That kind of I or the self does exist.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you be that day. Dagi Semala, and then those men that Toby Pataba Cham. That Jiyaka, that day, showing him and they own the Shimando that there is. The Rangi Madupita,
No.
to remember that.
So of course, this I or self or person is imputed onto, labeled onto, right, valid basis of imputation or labeling, okay, which basically is our body and mind, or aggregates, physical and mental aggregates, which constitute valid basis for labeling or imputation, and our conceptual thought, through processes labeled I or self or person onto this. These aggregates. So that kind of a person, we as that person, does exist, and we continued from the past life into this life, and we will continue into the future life. And it is this I or the self which is the foundation or the basis for the performance of our karmic actions and experience of the results of our karmic actions. And that I does not exist in and of itself or inherently.
Kanza data kanza tang ane nga se atele ko tasa ke jete phumbo nga am sta dangajo nga am ye kanro la ten tape tapa tape ane kanza sndoksen.
So self or I or person is nothing but a mere label that is labeled onto a collection of either 5 physical and mental aggregates or 4 aggregates. So the aggregates constitute the basis, valid basis for imputation or labeling, and I or the self is the label that is being labeled onto this collection. Okay? And that I exists. And it's just that. It's a mere label.
That rangi to be that never, rangi to be that major that is not rangi to be that. Rangi to be Juchenta, Dorjee Minta, Dagitan, Dorjee Minta, Tenzu Kamaya, Matepe, Ta Rangewachta. They tell any to make it that magic that you are.
So we just kind of talk about what kind of I or self a person does exist, okay, and that's who we are, okay. But now what kind of I or person or self does not exist? And to be simple, it is the inherently existent I. Now what does that mean? Okay, what that means is that there is no I or self or a person that exists in and of itself without depending upon any other condition or factor, including terms, concepts, and basis of imputation. Okay? So there is no such an independently existent I or self, independent in the sense that it has nothing to do with any other thing besides itself. It's just like a fixed notion of I, that independent, inherently existent I, that fixed notion of I, that does not rely on any other factors. Such an I does not exist. Okay? So that's what we call, when we say no I or self, that's what we meant. So the point I'm trying to bring home here is that it doesn't matter what kind of things are existent, whether in samsara or in the state beyond samsara. And everything that exists is, called phenomenon. Okay, chi. Sometimes we use the term dharma. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether it is phenomena of samsara or phenomena of nirvana, But nowhere in this whole range of phenomena there is an inherently existent phenomenon. There is no phenomenon that exists from its own side, in and of itself. Such a thing does not exist. Now you say, why? And let me explain. So the why, to answer that question, when we think in terms of what we call produced phenomena or composite phenomena, okay, or functional things, they are dependent upon their causes and conditions. That's how they come into existence, right? Things which are produced, they are produced by their causes and conditions. So they are dependently existent. They don't come on their own. They are produced by other things. See that? So it is in that sense, produced phenomena do not exist in and of themselves. They are empty of inherent existence. Now you will say, how about the non-produced phenomena, or what we call non-composite phenomena? Okay. And now the non-composite phenomena are sure not produced by cause and conditions, because then they cannot be produced phenomena. But these are posited in relation to produced phenomena. Something is considered as non-produced phenomenon in relation to, with reference to something that is produced. See that? So there is that kind of a relationship. The law of relativity is functioning here. So it is in that sense, non-produced phenomena could not exist if there are no such things as produced phenomena. So they are dependent in some sense. They are related to those phenomena for their existence. So ultimately, the bottom line is, so nothing exists independently. Everything is dependently existent. Of course, I'm trying to simplify as much as I could. In the process, it may not come out that simplified. Of course, because the matter is not easy to understand. There are a lot of things we need to consider here. But what I'm saying is that we should try to consider that how everything is dependently existent. The dependent existence has different understandings, as I explained last time. Okay, depending upon causes and conditions, or the kind of how to say something exists in relation to something else. And the example I just gave is all the non-produced phenomena exist in relation to things which are produced. If there are no such things as produced phenomena, there cannot be non-produced phenomena. Okay, so that kind of connection is there, and that kind of dependency is there. So with all these reasonings, what we are trying to understand here is that nothing exists in and of itself independently, objectively, solidified, fixed notion. There is no such thing. Okay, that's what we are talking about. So there is no inherently existent I or self in that mode. Okay, there isn't any phenomenon for that matter that exists with that kind of inherent identity. Okay, phenomena do not have inherent identity. So if we, have to posit the existence of a phenomenon in relation to something else beside itself, now that is a good indication that this phenomenon does not exist inherently. So going back to one of the key points, which is the training of the mind or mind training, although great Domtamba said, there are many ways to train our mind, but there are three key factors or subsidiary practices, and these are meditating on impermanence, meditating on love and compassion, and meditating on selflessnesses. Okay, these are the three key practices.
That carrying is na lojong ke tap country in ane yen tadi lojong with tap yen samala that to sung nam duire kana.
So why are these important three things? Because all other things we could talk about, they are somewhat related to these three key points. Okay, so therefore these are the three what we call the supporting practices or the subsidiary practices relating to training of the mind.
다 초사고 그랬어. 초사니 왜 상제지 공부 토발라 드바니 밥 매버서 드바니 장 초사고 그랬어. 아니 알듯이.
Now, in order to reach complete enlightened state or to become a Buddha, in other words, that we have to purify ourselves of negative states of mind and negative karmas, but we also need to accumulate merit and wisdom. So we do need to talk about, accumulation practice, if you will, choksa. Okay? And there are many ways to do that, but there are three key points.
다 초사가 타망고요. 이내 다 뒤는 전부 가르쳐서는 라말 안에 힘거다. 힘거왔다. 그쪽으로 처분 비웠다. 긴들은 힘거 잡아 전부도 다 조인스가나노.
So even though there are many ways to accumulate merit, but according to great Domtamba, there are these three which are very important. Number one, Nyenkurva, Lama means making offering and rendering service to gurus or lamas. That's one way. Making offerings to the three jewels, that's another way. Making offering and rendering service to the spiritual community or sangha, that's the third way. So these are the three key practices for the accumulation of merit.
소소가 타수 대sun 코나 안에 체힌 다트성 개 첨벌했던 장난 누구야를 가나.
So those are the three key ways to accumulate merit, and there may be other practices, but they are somehow included within this, or they are related to this 3 points.
Well, 다 전주 아니 간데 이미다 저랑서 아니 남르그나래 단 행위 된서 다 되셨어.
Now, to learn more about these things, I would advise you to go and read your Lamrim text, especially the section on what we call cultivating proper relationship with qualified spiritual masters. Okay, for simplicity's sake, maybe it's called Guru devotion. I know some people don't like the word devotion, but with some qualification, we are saying it here. So go and read the section on that.
정도 자가 계시는 참바라서도 저 초스들 전에 다 망보지 준 뒤니 초들 선물 주소다 이 초생 인여를.
So the Tibetan term chok, which means collection, and I said accumulation here, that gives you a sense of like an accumulation of a number of things. And usually we talk about two types of accumulation or two types of collection, if you want to use the word collection here. Accumulation of merit, punya in Sanskrit, sonam, and accumulation of wisdom or insight, gyan. Okay, so these are the two types of accumulation or collection that we often talk about.
No. That's sonam the is choice. Sonam ji so sa ne 산지 저주군이 누구야 그래서 그거 다 롱군이 무슨 누구야 그래서.
So if you ask, so what is the point of this accumulation of merit? Why do we need to accumulate merit and fulfill that accumulation of merit? Once we fulfill the accumulation of merit, punya, the outcomes that we experience are the two enlightened bodies, form bodies of a Buddha, and they are the emanation body or nirvana kaya and complete resource body or the sambhoga kaya. So sambhoga kaya and nirvana kaya are two form enlightened form bodies, which are the results or the outcome of the accumulation of merit.
다 이게 초사비 라기스남도 다 된들 아니 초사니 네 다른 데부 그런 누구에서는 네 최고든 누구예요. 그래서
So then what will we achieve through the accumulation of wisdom or insight or gyan, if you ask? So what we achieve eventually is what we call wisdom truth body, or, what I'm saying. Now the truth body, Dharmakaya, the wisdom truth was part of that, but try to be faithful to the translation, do a translation. So we will achieve truth body or Dharmakaya as a result of accumulation of wisdom.
다 최고 때는 양 뇌지 죽거든 뇌만 죽고 인도스 잡으랬어.
So with regard to the truth body, Dharmakaya, we can talk about two dimensions of Dharmakaya. One is what we call that which is composite or produced, and the other is that which is non-composite or non-produced. So there are two dimensions to Dharmakaya or truth body.
단 뇌지 죽고 최고도 가르쳐서나 산재 경제도 두주변에 단들이 넘버 3개 집이 시대 일단 이시 최고 단 뇌지 죽고.
So you give an example of the produced dimension of Buddha's truth body or enlightened truth body. Now this is where we talk about the omniscient wisdom of a Buddha. So that is the produced dimension of the truth body. Usually we talk about wisdom truth body or Gyan Dharmakaya. Okay.
다 뇌마시 죽고 가르쳐서나 뇌니 세퍼 파빵네. 그 뇌니 세퍼 빵배 빵바 더도 땅 모den세 주어를 때려서 딱 뭐니 쓰는 데도 될 안에 가서다. 뭐래. 뇌마시 죽고 그래서.
So then what is the non-produced or the non-composite dimension of the truth body, if you ask? Now this is where we talk about as we go through all the purification practices, and we have purified ourselves completely of the two types of mental obscuration, delusions or obscuration to nirvana, and obscuration to omniscient wisdom, we call shedid, or knowledge, omniscient knowledge. When we have got rid of completely those two types of mental obscuration, we achieve what we call state of cessation of those obscuration. That state of cessation is a factor. It's just a state that we achieve having abandoned those two obscurations. So that state itself is what we call a natural truth body, or Sava Bhavekakaya. Okay, that's the natural truth body. That is the non-composite, non-produced dimension of truth body.
당가란 생님한테 청가란 참말로 생긴 무슨 인체네 산지 공부했더니 아니 꾸님부터 최고도 아다 아니 죽스는 데도 꾸님부터 내가 참말로 더고 이랬어.
So what we're really talking about is that all of us, including as a matter of fact, every sentient being down to the smallest insect, eventually we all could become Buddha. Okay, so when we ourselves become a Buddha, enlightened being, awakened being, whatever you want to call, label that, then that's what we achieve. We internalize or we accomplish those enlightened bodies that I just talked about, and that's how we become a Buddha.
손장가란서 다 손남 그 초때 아니 다 주근인 로야 그 주시 아니 이게 저도 최고로 주시 자 대응 아주 참말로 다 손남이 이게 초 싸고 그래서.
So now I hope you see the clear connection between why we need to accumulate merit and wisdom, because we all want to have the wisdom truth body and the natural truth body. So if we want to become Buddha and have those enlightened bodies, then we have to accumulate merit and wisdom.
대인바대한 거 뭘로 그 엄마는 진통은 욕들 요래. 여완디 쇼 그 손님이 히 초조시. 손님이 길이 좀 담배꾼이 터가 효스. 여완디 아니 쇼 그 참말로 했어. 쇼그. 요 쇼그. 손님이 히 초조게. 아니 손님들이 히 초니 무슨 좋아네. 이 초조. 손님이 히 레좀에서 초조네 손님들이 히 초니는 쇼에 담배꾼이서 담배 안에 사실 죽어도 죽으니부터 알았다. 누가 효스가나다. 이 주적이스가.
in this regard, I want to quote a dedication stanza from Arya Nagarjuna's Precious Garland or Ratna Avali, and which Geshe quoted from his memory. It says, by the power of virtues that I have accumulated here, may all sentient beings, nobody to be left out, we said all sentient beings, are able to experience the fulfillment of two types of accumulation, merit and wisdom, and through that may they be able to achieve the ultimate enlightened bodies. Okay? So just as Nagarjuna has dedicated his merit, so this is what we are talking about. We need to accumulate and bring these two accumulation of merit and insight to the fruition state, and this is where we accomplish enlightened bodies.
ngaranzo ko te gende sheni ngaranzo gitsa chishun kane ji dobe yina ya at kong dan da song ban yi ke nge gewi zaw de la tin sona ni hi cho jo ni ani sanji ji ko ni ba to tobi jo ji sta man ta de years.
So if we follow in the footstep of Arya Nagarjuna, we could use this dedication stanza. Whatever merit we accumulate, we could dedicate our merit in the same way that he did. By the power of our merit, may all sentient beings, experience the fulfillment of the two types of accumulation, merit and wisdom, and thereby attain the two ultimate enlightened bodies. And we will stop there today.
Yeah.
Sure. I have some prayer requests. Jack Howard Paldy passed away, and Mary Stetsgivers passed away too, so we are requested to pray for them. And an announcement actually two announcements, as a matter of fact, see here. One is, it seems like the flu season has begun in LA, or maybe somewhere here too. So if we have, flu or we have experienced some symptoms, anything like so, please try to kind of postpone our visit to Geshe after the teaching. If we are fine, that's okay, but we don't want to give the virus to him. And the second announcement is Geshe is giving refuge vows Monday, December 4 at 7:30 here. Okay? But right after the refuge vows, he will also do a short version of the Bodhisattva vows. So students who would like to take the refuge vows as well as attend the short version of Bodhisattva vows, so you are welcome to that. Yes.
Same shit, the Jeba Shina Tanda Yuya Maris. Senshi del member senshi the Yuba senshi in yours. Gudum Lambala, Lay Lavo Yamaras, Choba Jachimbu Pu, and around pay Choga Jachimbu Onshini, Seguris. The Sani this year, the handsome thing. Remember, handsome thing, that going it in those. So Geshe
wants to clarify what does he mean by short version of Bodhisattva vows. When we talk about developing bodhicitta or altruistic mind of enlightenment, there are two versions. One is the aspirational form we call aspiring bodhicitta, and other is called engaging bodhicitta or the practical and the venturing. And we all translators come with all these wonderful terms here. So whatever, but that's the other side of the bodhicitta. And in order to do the engaging bodhicitta, we really need to have elaborate offerings, and it's more complicated, so you can't do it right away. So what he's going to do is the aspiring bodhicitta ceremony. Okay, so because some people requested and like that. So right after the refuge vows, on Monday he will conduct the aspiring bodhicitta ceremony. Okay, help us develop that kind of bodhicitta.
Shalom Gole, Shalom Gaba, Zombe, Sanje, Pala, Zanje, Zelo, Zelo, Soba, Shere, Zelo, Shatse, Alo, 산지 땜바로 먹겠다. 주유는 내봐다. 자위 이기는 저기 딘지 집에 담아는 고생 잡이 땜바도 투지 긴도는 매매로 용하다. 그 동행지 쇼 보면은 주 춘디 자원은 있었는 줘봐다. 아니 이제 감자다 이게 뭐 뒤빈 거 소리다 괜히 춘진으로 다들 매매로 용하고.
Let us dedicate our collective merit for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy beings live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings experience peace, prosperity, happiness. Last but not least, we dedicate our collective merit for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, obscuration to nirvana and obscuration to omniscient knowledge, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Shabe Sinte Bado Tenyo Je Saje Beje Joje Medo Tama Rejo Nege Nyede Kembonde Sanye Jendo Mede Vemo Ye Dokuna Dewa Kino Sheba Jo Yedam Guru Nama Mandela Niya Daya Me